Tell me when to start the counter. Yeah. Your audio is a bit quiet though. Is everything good? Is everything alright?
All right. So I switched audio to stream, so hopefully sound goes through a bit better and hopefully it's not delayed. If we assume everything's good, so that was the first boss, Ursula, just a prologue boss, nothing special. Alright. So, instead of gummy ship missions, like what you might have seen in other KH games, we have dive, which is just kind of like what I'm doing here. Each dive to each world has its own point requirement or boss requirement. Some dives are different. And you want to get an A rank, you have ranks from A to D. So, and if you get all A ranks, you get a good Keyblade at the end of the game. So we got our first A rank, that's good. So now we're going into Traverse Town. We have flow motion, but first I'm gonna go put my dex scrolling to skip recovery in order to maximize how many spells I get off without accidentally curing. I hit that save point that's really important for a warp later. And now we're going into a tutorial that we kind of do. We hit play, but we back out of it because we get out of a battle, and it actually saves time. So we skip a few text boxes here, and we just back out like that. No battle, no nothing, no EXP. So now this beginning part of DDD is the most boring, and then involves a lot of like emphasis on spirits. So now we have to make a Meow Wow. This doesn't really matter for the rest of the game. We are on New Game Plus, which is different from New Game, and you're able to carry over spirits from previous save files. So that's what's going to give us all the commands we'll be using, or at least most of the commands we'll be using throughout the entire run. So what you're seeing here doesn't matter. Tutorial on Affinity won't really be useful for the most part. Again, sorry for the audio at the beginning. I just wasn't sure if it was going through, so hopefully everything's fine. But this tutorial, pretty much nothing, just Patum, you know, Pokemon Simulator, as this game has been pretty infamous for. And so this is the ability link. This is your board. You get link points to unlock abilities. And that's pretty much the tutorial. So a lot of this run is dependent on movement, like I said earlier, with flow motion. So it's one of the most fun parts about this run. And the main gimmick for this game is that you switch between Sora and Riku for, you know, each set of worlds. So now we are going to Riku's Traverse Town portion. Each character has different dives and like a different, you know, so some dives have dive bosses, and they're kind of like auto scrollers. Each character has the same bosses, but they appear in different dives. So you'll have, especially coming up, you'll have a boss with Riku with his first world that you don't see with Sora until the very last world. So that's kind of how the game works in terms of, you know, getting 2 worlds with each character. Apologies if the stream quality isn't that good sometimes. Dives kind of suck the life out of the stream. So as long as it's bearable, everything should be good. Obviously, we want an A rank. As usual, this should be an A rank. It's one of the easier dives. We'll have a similar tutorial like we had with Sora in terms of making a spirit. We're going to be making a Kamari bat right about now. And it's shorter, so it's less text boxes to worry about. And like the Meow Wow, this does not matter for the rest of the run, unlike the new game category, which you can find more about at speedrun.com. I won't dive too much into it because that's not what I'm doing. And obviously we're on beginner, it's the easiest difficulty, it's the fastest, it's the safest. You know, all the perks of doing beginner. And like Sora, we will tutorial here in order to save time for the same reason. We get to skip a battle with this Kuma Panda here. A few text boxes, and then we are able to just back out. And so now we will switch back to Sora, and now we will finish his Traverse Town portion here. So we're going to be getting a few chests along the way in order to sell and get some items. So the first chest is right to my right here on this ledge. And now we'll be going in the post office, get a few more chests. I'm gonna skip this big chest right here. I don't really do it a whole lot, but yeah, it's a little bit faster. It's a little riskier, but I haven't had a problem like that in ever with this game. You should have enough items to, you know, pass. So now we'll be getting another chest to our right here on another ledge with Flomo. You can see Flomo at its core. So obviously, like I said earlier, full motion, very important part of this game. I will be getting this chest up here. Let's see if I can... That was pretty good. So soon we'll be getting into the most boring part of this game, which is water barrel grinding. This is what ensures our spirits to get... Ooh, that movement was pretty bad, but it's fine. So we get Balloon here, and this is known for being an overpowered command, but we're actually going to sell it for money. So, cutscene here, and now we will get into the grinding. So we will sell everything we have for items called water barrels. So what they are, they're like mini games that give your spirits points for abilities, like what we saw in the tutorial. So we will be doing that with our New Game Plus spirits to get some useful commands that we'll use for the rest of the game. So we do sell literally everything we have, and we buy like 20 or so water barrels, which are these items right here. Hopefully 20 is enough. So we will get you, and you. So this first set of spirits will give us Balloonra. Let me see. Balloonra, Curaga, and Super Glide. Not respectively. Sadly, that was unlucky right there. So water barrels do have RNG in how many points they give you. The most ideal thing would be for all spirits to get 20 right off the bat. And so, I'll explain it later. So we will get these first 3 commands, and now we will switch to 3 Jugapups to get 3 more Balloonras. So Balloonra is the most overpowered command in this run, so obviously we'll be using that for optimization. Sadly, they did not get 20 either, so I'll have to use another one. So if you hit the question mark and spam right or left trigger, you have an opportunity at skipping this animation. Obviously it saves a few seconds, but it's pretty specific. And I have one more shot at it. So sadly, you know, if I don't get it, it's whatever. It's not super rare, but it's not super common either. Nah. Oh well. So now we will be switching to our main 3 spirits that we'll be using in the game. They are 2 magic weapons and a pseudo Neku. We mainly use this trio to get magic hastes, so our Balloonras charge faster, so we're able to obviously use more in a shorter amount of time. So I think for safety I might just use every water barrel. Obviously, like I said, water barrels are RNG. The most ideal is like you want 20 or over usually. That left magic weapon has been getting like teens the last couple water barrels, but that last water barrel was pretty good. So we'll see. Obviously, we'll play it safe if we need to. Fine by me. So you see, the 2 magic weapons have a title under them called Spark Jockey. This is kind of specific for the run because this optimizes this increases the odds that they grant a spell called Spirit Roar later in the game. It increases your magic damage by, I believe, 20% for 10 seconds. And, oh yeah, I should talk about this too. So obviously I am on the PlayStation 4 version of the game. with that is bundled with the Kingdom Hearts 2.8 collection with 0.2 and back cover cutscenes. This is very different from the 3D version on 3DS. And one of the main differences is that you can skip out of this mini game to get the points. In the 3DS version, you have to play the whole game to get your points, but in this version, you're able to just skip out. So farming is way faster in this version. Yeah, these water bells have been pretty mad. I think I'm just gonna use all of them for safety. They're kind of varied throughout all three spirits, so. What you want is you want 280 link points on the Magic Lapins, and you want pretty much anything on the Pseudo Neku. Anything on the Pseudo Neku is kind of extra. So we'll see. I probably overdid it. 304. I mean, that's fine. So you'll see we'll be getting some magic haste commands and some magic boosts as well. These magic boosts are as important as the magic haste, and obviously that will lead our balloon rest to do more damage. We sell that fire command later, actually, so it's kind of important, but we never use fire in this run. I don't need that 30 after this one. So this concludes water barrel farming. Again, the most boring part in the run. So we're finally going to get into our first boss after our first bigger menu, where we put on all the balloon res, and we will put Super Glide and Dark Barrier on Sora and Riku respectively. Wow, I just had enough on that Magic Lapin. That's kind of scary. So all 4 balloon res will be on both characters. Sadly, Sora is the only one that can use Super Glide. For some reason, Riku can't Super Glide. So Riku, we have to actually use slow motion movement. So now, after that, first boss of the game, this is Sora's Hoka Monkey. And as we wait for the balloons to charge, we'll just attack him a bit. He has these fists that can be pretty annoying. And with any Kingdom Hearts game in the command deck system, they're known for being able to eat your commands. So just do some damage. Obviously, balloon res. You can see how much damage they do. I'm not really bouncing off all these walls on purpose. That wasn't a bad fight. Sometimes he can break the glass below you and you go into the greenhouse area if the fight goes on a little too long, so at least he didn't do that. Drop to Riku, I believe. Correct. So, each character goes through the same worlds, but they're modeled differently per se. We'll talk more about that later, once we get into more worlds. So we're going to go to Riku and finish his Traverse Town section, because you need to finish both sections to continue. So now we're going to put the same spirits that Sora has on, which are the 2 Magic Lapins and the Pseudo Neku. And Riku has a forced fight here. Obviously, forced fights are, fights you need to do to proceed with the game, but they're kind of different from boss fights. They're more like mob fights. So we're just gonna Flomo, kill these Meow Wows, and then we will use Balloonra the rest of the fight. Hopefully none of the Meow Wows get too out of the way. This fight's not that great. Some Meow Wows got on the loose, and sometimes the balloon rest can hit the lampposts. So your balloons are kind of worthless at that point. So now we'll just kind of to Riku's boss, which is also Hoka Monkey, but it takes on a different form per se. It's more of like a mage type Hoka Monkey than what you saw with Sora, who was more physically not active, but more of a physical boss. And Riku's Hoka Monkey is by far way more annoying than Sora's. But we're gonna kill this group of enemies to get to level 3, my bad. Gives us a magic boost before Hoka Monkey that will help us, and obviously optimize the fight a little bit more. Yeah, that movement wasn't that great, and I'm gonna hit the door. But, alright, so we fight Riku's Hoka Monkey in the greenhouse that Sora would love. Like, if Sora's Hoka Monkey would have broken the glass, you would have ended up here. So, yeah, that's not what I wanted to happen. That's probably the worst thing that could happen, is that you get stuck on the railings. And you can't use commands when you're on, you know, when you're flow-mowing. What I'm using right now is a reality shift. It will stun Hoka Monkey for a few seconds. Hopefully enough for me to finish him. So you see the purple circle, that's when you can activate a reality shift. Each world has its own reality shift, and some are better than others, some are required for advancing through the world. This one we use just because it stuns Hoka Monkey, and otherwise he just flies around and more annoying to hit. So now both Traverse Towns are done, at least the first part. We're going back there later with both characters. So now we'll get into Riku's first ring of worlds, or first set, however you want to call them. And we'll be going to the world based off the Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is La Cité des Cloches. Pardon my French. So this is the first case of a dive boss, and this one is probably the most annoying, if not the second most annoying boss, so I might want to concentrate a little bit. It'll be hard to... I probably can't explain this fight too well. But this is Queen Buzzerfly. If you play this game, you will learn to hate her, especially if you run this game. So you need to kill all 4 of her little minions or whatever to be able to attack her, and hopefully... Alright, we got the 1 cycle. So getting the 1 cycle there, it's not impossible. It's just kind of sketchy sometimes, depending on what pattern she gives you. But I'm happy we got the 1 cycle. That's something on this run that's gone right. And obviously, because we got the 1 cycle, we got an A rank. So now, this is Riku's Hunchback of Notre Dame world. We will go into the cathedral for some plots. Real quick. So nothing too much here. We'll have a shop in a few moments where we will sell the Fyra we got from the Pseudo Neku from grinding, and we will buy slow that we won't use till much later. Also, we hit the save point here, which is very important for something we'll do later. So we're gonna sell Fyra, we're gonna buy slow, we're gonna go to our menu, we're gonna put on Curaga, and the new Keyblade we got from the Traverse Town world, which is Skull Noise. It's better both strength and magic, so obviously we equip it because it's just stronger. It's better than default weighted on or Kingdom Key. So now we'll get into a segment where this is just the bridge segment in a nutshell. Riku's boss for this world will start to throw fireballs and try to attack you, but you're just able to flow-mo across the entire bridge for the most part, with the exception of, you know, trying to break a few objects. So it's nothing too terrible. It's just another showcase of flow motion movement. So yeah, that's a pretty standard section right there. Sometimes Riku wants to get stuck on those barrels that you saw. I I like the 1.3 I have at the bottom right for the drop gauge, which is another gimmick of this game. It goes from blue to yellow to like a purple, and when it runs out of time, you switch to the other character. What the 1.3 means, I guess I'll explain it now. So each world has its own weather. That's another gimmick of this game. And the ideal weather for a speedrun is called overcast. And that gives us a magic boost for the world for that. So we hit the save point so we can save warp back to the town here, because it's way faster than going across the bridge again. And Riku's boss is right inside the church. So we'll be fighting Wargoyle, and this is a fight in the air, which can be kind of... this fight can be kind of annoying just because he can stun lock you and stun you and break out of your balloon res. So we'll see. So you see one of my balloon res got in, two of my balloon res got in. We can use the reality shift here to do some damage when our balloon res are on cooldown. That was pretty good. That was actually... I might have had overcast. I think I did. Because sometimes he can grab you, or he tries to grab you and throw you back onto the building, which wastes time. So now Riku's... well, you'll see from this game that the worlds are noticeably shorter for the most part in comparison to, you know, Kingdom Hearts 1 that you might have saw from KH Street way earlier in the marathon. No overcast. Okay. So now we're going into Riku's second world, which is the grid based off of Tron Legacy. I checked for the overcast weather because it is very important in most worlds for both characters. If I had it on the first or third slot, I would have been able to have it in this world. The reason why I say first and third is that when you drop, the weather shifts. Like, you see the weather for the next 3 drops, and you saw, like, all 3, like, money, I believe is what that one was. So I believe that's just an extra money weather. So if I drop to Sora, I get the second money weather. And if I drop to Riku again, I get whatever's in the third. So if it was on first and third, I would have been able to drop to Sora and then drop right back to Riku in order to get overcast. So it wastes a bit of time from the drop animation, but sometimes it's worth it. So the grid is Riku's longest world, especially in this beginning game, mainly because of this minigame. This is the light cycle minigame, aka mash square, not mash X, not mash triangle to win. This is mash square. So this is pretty straightforward. The game isn't determined on like a kill count, so obviously you want to either destroy or avoid these light cycles. But the game doesn't have like a kill requirement. It's time-based, or it's also well, it's you can look at it as either time-based or progress-based. So just as long as you make it to a certain portion in the track after a certain portion of laps, then the game advances to the next part of the minigame. So it's pretty straightforward. It's another boring part of this run, but you also have to worry about the other light cycles, because obviously getting stunned loses a little bit of momentum. I'll explain the second phase as there's a cutscene before the second phase. I'll explain more there. I'm pretty sure all of the light cycle spawns are consistent, but it's kind of hard to remember each and every single one of them. So positioning on this can be extremely tricky. because obviously you want to minimize the amount of times you have to jump over the streams so you don't get hit. So this is the second phase. So Riku's boss of this world, which is Comantus, spawns right here. So you just need to beat him in this form. So you beat him with your light cycle beam. So it does a lot of damage, but this fight is also kind of RNG because he can give you some good or bad patterns. You want not what I have here, where he shies back from you. You want where he comes right up in your face to do damage to you, which is this. You want him to do this pincer attack he has here in order to maximize the amount of time you're able to do hits. So, hold on, hopefully the discs aren't the worst thing he can do. That was okay. In comparison to other fights, the worst thing he can do is go back behind you, so you have to do more damage with your beam. Yeah, I'm sorry, the stream might lag a bit. Hopefully, again, it's still tolerable. So in the DDD community, it's kind of a meme. So we need to put on Guardian Bell, which is the next best Keyblade. And usually everyone forgets it, so we kind of turn it into the Guardian Bell meme. So we will be doing a forced fight with Riku in a few moments down in the city. Cutscene here. Alright, this fight can be extremely tricky with all the terrain around, like the posts and all that. You don't want your balloons to get eaten by the posts. And there's also a lot of enemies that can stun you. These rams have laser beams that can stun lock you. There's a bunch of owls that spawn later that can definitely stun lock you. They're probably the most annoying enemies in this fight. Or that hasn't really happened before. So I guess the snails can put you in a zero graviga or zero gravity status and confuse you, which inverts your control. So at least I can explain that. That was an example of how the rams could potentially stun you. I believe, is this the last guy? Or there's another wave? Okay. So now it's, I wouldn't say straight boss. We have to do a few things, especially with the reality shift in this world, which I'll explain once we get there. So this is the gun portion, and oh god, okay. Getting stun lock there is terrible because they do a lot of damage. So this is Code Break. It's pretty self-explanatory. You see the glowing word, you hit the PlayStation button that corresponds to it, and then, you do the reality shift. These specific ones have, like four or so buttons you need to do for each portion or in the word unlock, so you can unlock the rooms, or unlock the doors, I should say. I'm just going to heal for safety so I don't get stun locked and die to the guns, because it is definitely possible. So we'll just do this one more time after this for guns. Hopefully I get my movement. Alright, that's good. That's a piece of movement I came up with, so you don't get hit by... So you don't lock onto the rams right there, which means you can't reality shift the guns. So that's just kind of how I found how to avoid the rams and getting hit by the gun, so it's a win-win. So now is more of the walk to the boss, or flow mode to the boss, I guess you could say. So if you want to pick up DDD, I wouldn't say the best way to get better at it is just do more runs. Like this room is always, getting up those stairs right there is usually one of the most difficult flow motion rooms the first time. So obviously you just get better by doing that. Flomo at the end was accidental. But definitely something that you don't see in Kingdom Hearts 1 or Kingdom Hearts 2. So this is the last room before the boss, just a straightforward full motion portion here on this rail. So now we're going to go into Commantis, which you saw at the light cycle track, but this is the actual fight of the world. Depending on his movement, this boss can be pretty annoying. He stood still at the beginning, which is ideal. And you just don't want to get stun locked, like always. So that was a good first phase. So this boss has a few HP gates, and at each one of them, you need to use the reality shifts. You had one that I just did, you have one coming up relatively soon during this health bar right here. And then you have one at the end of the fight to finish him. Sometimes the PlayStation buttons can be hard to read because of the color, but it's all fine. So this is the end of the fight. That was a pretty good fight considering I didn't have Overcast. I didn't get stun locked really, and I didn't get damaged a lot. So this fight was pretty good. Grid was pretty solid for the most part. Light cycle might have been a bit better. So now we have one more world to do with Riku in his the Prankster's Paradise based off of Pinocchio. And this is this is probably one of the worlds that is like the most different between Riku and Sora, as I check for Overcast again that I don't have, sadly. Overcast in this world, alright, so this is Riku's shortest world. I think it might be the shortest world in the game. And this dive, so this is just another point dive. It's pretty simple. Sometimes these hands can be pretty annoying. So this is, oh, I don't know why I got hit there. But yeah, this is the shortest world in the game, 99% sure. This dive isn't too long. I just want to make sure I get A ranks. So I get the dive wing keyblade. I don't know if I said the name of it. It's called the dive wing keyblade you get when you get an A rank on the final dive when you've gotten A's on all the other ones. Yeah. This dive can be kind of tricky. It's one of those ones that, you know, you might start, you know, your speed running of it being pretty bad at it. Yeah, getting under a minute is pretty good. Like, I usually do that, but, you know, marathon setting, you know, we'll just blame it on that. But getting an A rank on this dive is pretty important because it gives you an extra balloon rail that you know, that's in the route. So I just put it on now. Just personal preference for the most part, so you have another one for this boss fight. So we'll talk to Geppetto, go through a few rooms, and then you're pretty much at the boss, with a few cutscenes in between. Oh, whoops. Okay. Solid movement there. I'm just gonna do this. So cutscene here, and then we'll have like 2 rooms before the boss. So we'll have this one that we spawn in. And then you have this room. This room can be pretty annoying because it just kind of loops like there. It's hard to do it in one without hitting the ground. So this is Riku's boss of the world. This is Lobster. And like the name says, he is a lobster. Oh, whoops. What was that? It's never happened before. So this boss is the most annoying in Riku's section by far. And we'll see if he wants to fulfill that. So he can stun lock you like that. And we can use the reality shift to stun him for literally a few moments before he goes to his desperation phase, which is when he turns green. And we'll see what that is. Okay, yeah, he did the worst case thing, and let's go to the other side of the room. We'll see if he wants to go to the other side. Yep, okay. Marathon luck, that's fine. So that's one of the fights where Overcast can be pretty helpful, because if you do enough damage, you can do a second reality shift to stun him, and if you have Overcast, you're going to have enough magic damage to kill him. And usually his movement's pretty random. He goes across the room whenever he wants to, so that wasn't a great fight. But whatever. So now we're dropping back to Sora because Riku's ring is complete, and in order to advance, we need to complete both characters' worlds. So now we're going into Sora's Hunchback of Notre Dame world, which is pretty similar in terms of like how it looks, but obviously they do different fights and so on, like you'll see. And we get to show off Super Glide for the first time. So Super Glide is Sora's fastest form of movement. It's faster than full motion. You'll see it in a moment once we're done with this dive. Pretty easy, just another points-based one. Well, point and enemy-based, I should say. I guess technically every dive is point-based, even the boss ones that give you points at the very end. So I guess in this case, you have to kill 15 enemies, and then the ring becomes unlocked. Otherwise, you have to replay the entire dive. So obviously, we're still hunting for our A ranks, like usual. These laser beams can be pretty annoying in this dive, because depth perception sucks. So you just kind of want to be at an angle where you don't get hit by any of them, obviously. That's ideal. Get as many points as possible without being too far out of the way. So this should be A rank. So now we will put on Sora's Keyblade from Traverse Town as... no, I think that's it. I think that's all we're putting on right now. So this next fight is going to be something... we're going to show off something that you'll see. For a few more fights is what we... This is the Comet Spell. So you see the purple gauges on the right side of the screen where the Dream Eaters are? That is think of it as your D-Link from Birth by Sleep if you've played it, or if you've seen it. Ooh, okay, sorry, stream is being a bit weird. But, so, depending on what, type of Dream Eater you use, the dual link of it can have different spells. Comet is definitely the most useful one because of what you saw there. It can deal a lot of damage to an entire wave of enemies, and so we use it later throughout the run. So now just a bit of super gliding. As you see, you can see how quick it is. And now we get to go to a forced fight with Sora, which is the flower fight. So what this fight is you have to kill 3 big flowers in order to, or you have to kill each flower to unlock the next, per se. So other than getting hit, the best thing to do is to hit it once and then use balloons so you can stun it. That's another thing that's different in this version of the game, is that they actually have the ability to stun enemies, unlike the 3DS version. And you also want to hit level 4 in this area, or pretty much in this area. Level 4 gives you a magic boost that's useful on the boss of this world. So we'll see if I get it. It's not really random, but... Ooh, I almost died too. I wasn't really paying attention. So I did hit level 4, that's great. My HP will refill. And then now we're at a kind of self-explanatory thing. We super glide across the bridge. Again, you can see how fast super gliding is, and you could probably guess how, like, you know, it's way faster than flow motion, like what we did with Riku, because the bridge is pretty much the same. Sora doesn't have any other fights or anything before the boss, so it's kind of basic. I could talk about plot here, but, you know, all memes aside, the DDD plot is very confusing. So I probably, you know, who watches these marathons for the plot? We just play the games fast. Like, who cares about story? It'll make sense somehow. Actually, right now, well, you saw that purple goo on the floor. If you stay in it, your drop gauge increases, and you'll see that in a few more spots at the end of the run, or near the end of the run. So this is the last room, or, well, this is the second to last room before the boss. There's a save point out here I'm gonna touch, because in this game, for some reason, when you go into a boss fight, they refill Sora's health, but not your spirits, which is kind of weird. So now we talk to Esmeralda, and then I guess we warp back to the cathedral, and this is Wargoyle, so it's the same, pretty much the same monster Riku fought, but this time it's on the grounds. So kind of like Hoka Monkey, the bosses differ. And Wargoyle can be pretty aggressive. He can stun you. But that was actually really good. That was a really good fight. So now this is instead of doing the grid world for Sora, like what we did with Riku, like we did the Tron world second, we're doing the Monstro world next, and we definitely have a reason for this. It's because Sora's grid has like no forced fights other than the boss, so we're able to level up in this world. I do not have Overcast. Okay, this run does not have good luck so far. But Sora's Prankster's Paradise world has 2 forced fights and like a grind session where we grind to level 7 before the boss. So definitely worth doing this world first, just for the level ups. This is arguably the easiest dive in the game. Lots of people, when they play this, they get the laser spin you see on the left, and they use it right away, but it's actually faster to use it right here in these big clusters of balloons. So simple, like, you know, usual, just, you know, balloons, it's a unique dive, because you're not, you know, killing enemies or anything. So now I need to equip Sora's Guardian Bell, like what we did with Riku when we got to his second world. So obviously we want to skip all these mementos that you've been seeing throughout the run. Just, they're kind of extra cutscenes, or extra bits of text that are unnecessary. So, well, first I'm going to put on Cure and a Balloon Rot, and then I'm going to put on Sora's Keyblade, because obviously it is stronger magically, and obviously magic is what we care about in this run. I'm going to wait a bit for my Balloon Res to, you know, get up a bit in command gauge, and this is the first forced fight of the world. So these enemies can freeze you. Hopefully that doesn't happen. That's why I super glided at the start, because if you stand still, there is a great chance that you get frozen. I did get stunned, sadly, by the Kuma Pandas. That's what the Earthquake move that does, that you saw there. So other than that, that was actually a pretty good fight. So that we'll have a bit of downtime between that fight and the next forced fight that I was talking. Ooh, how long did I have that link gauge for? Kind of scared. Oh well, it's fine. I could have maybe used Comet that last fight in order to save some time, but it's kind of risky because you need your gauges to build up before a certain portion, for when we like when the route uses Comet again. You just need to make sure your gauges are up. So this is the second forced fight. They take your spirits out, so you have no like gauges or anything to work with. So this is the circus fight. The gimmick of this fight is the enemies, or specifically the pandas, can bounce on these trampolines, and they pretty much give you a high jump ability, like you saw me do there. This fight can be pretty annoying depending on where everyone goes, because usually everyone kind of goes to the bottom floor, or the bottom trampoline, really quickly, I can say. And you don't want to be stunned too much, because you don't have like an aerial recovery, or at least we don't. So you see there's 3 Kuma Pandas down here. Try not to get absolutely demolished by a punch or them bouncing. This should be the last guy. I guess that's average. And then so now Sora will be going to his, which is a lobster, but it's a different lobster than Riku's. It's chill lobster, we call him. But first we have to do a little mini grind to level 7. We just have to defeat a couple enemies. Level 7 gives us a magic boost for this boss. So you see I'm 13 EXP. Whoops, I didn't get it. I would like to not be frozen by those guys and just waste extra time. So at level 7, magic boost for the boss, obviously it's gonna help. Couple cutscenes here and there, you know, story plot stuff. And you can see that this is definitely a prime example of how Sora and Riku's gameplay differs and how the worlds are modeled. Like, Riku's Prankster's Paradise was inside the whale, while Sora's is on Pleasure Island. And in the water, because plot. So, some weird water movement here. You jump higher, you have like the high jump in the water, which is kind of interesting. But we'll be going into the boss in just a few moments. So this boss, it's kind of different from most bosses, and we'll talk more once we get there. I want to see if I can do a swag strat real quick. Nope. Okay. So if I'm lucky, I can dodge roll through the that attack and gain some invincibility frames and not get hit a second time like I did there. So balloons, he's gonna fly around. He's gonna DM when he goes green, like you see here. He'll probably go up and then try to smash the grounds. Also, you really do not want your spirits to die, so that's why I healed there. When your spirits die, I might as well talk about it now. When your spirits die, you have 30 seconds to revive them before they disappear and become the pieces or figments. Okay, I should be fine. So when you get this boss down to about 1 health or 1 bar of health, he'll go into like this different phase. Right, like you'll see here. So you don't have to deplete it to 0 completely. I think I got hit on the thing. So you have to do the reality shift on the whale, on Monstro, and then they'll have this long cutscene play, and then you have, this is pretty much the finisher to the boss, is using the reality shift, which is Bubble Burst, which you kind of saw with Riku and his lobster boss. So I guess, you know, just, it's self-explanatory, you know, you just have to dodge the lobster's attacks, which is simple as moving to the other side of the screen like so. So, there you go. So now we have one more world, and I guess you can call it the first half of the game, if you want to divide it like that, which is Sora's Grid, which like I said earlier, there's not a whole lot in terms of fights, but the dive to Sora's Grid is another dive boss, but it's the most consistent dive boss in the game. So this is Brawlamari. So I guess I can demonstrate how broken a specific command is in the dive. So I will demonstrate how broken Aerial Break is. Aerial Break can dodge literally every attack that Brawlamari throws, I guess, other than the rocks, arguably, that he just did. But that's like his desperation move right there. And then you just have to kill each orb, and you do 1 orb per cycle, so it's a pretty short boss. But you see, he'll do this laser attack, and you can aerial break through all of it. Same thing with these little, I guess, beams. And even his sword slashes, if you time your aerial break just right. So this is already the end of the fight. He just does the same thing like in the first phase. So kill the other orb, and then that's the boss. So super simple. I'm not sure. Yeah, I did mention it. You fight each boss twice, 1 on Sora, 1 on Riku. So you do Riku's Brawlamari later in the game, for example. So this is Riku's grid, not Riku's grid, Sora's Grid, my bad. Just a movement, you know, no forced fights. So Sora has his own gun portion like Riku did, except it takes place in the cars right here. So you do the same thing Riku did, you know, use reality shifts on the guns to break them, and we get a Balloonra chest here. So the game literally gives us another free Balloonra because I guess they didn't know how broken this thing was, and we just put it on right away. I think everyone likes having the cure at the bottom, so you just rearrange your deck a little bit just to have cure at the bottom. I guess, I don't know if it's just me or... So this is a bit of movement I do here. I'm not even sure if it's faster, I just call it plain. Not even plain skip, just plain movement. Just do what I did, super glide up the plane so you don't have to like flow motion or do extra movement on those boxes. And you know how Riku had pretty much the same exact room, Sora can just super glide across the whole thing, and it's kind of pathetic of how Riku doesn't super glide. So this is Rinsler. It is not a hard fight at all, but the patterns he can give are pretty random. Sometimes he can stun lock you, but sometimes stun locking is a blessing in disguise because that means you can activate your next commands faster. That makes sense? I don't know if I can really show it off. Not really there. Can I kill him? Okay, thank you. So usually, if you're playing this game casually, he's able to flip the room, upside down, zero gravity inverse your controls, so on. But obviously, since Balloon does so much damage, it gives him no time to do that. So now the first Ring of Worlds are done on both characters. So now we have to go back to Traverse Town, just for plot reasons. I think that was sub 1 Rinsler, which is alright. So we do not want to hit dive. So we want to hit visit this world. And I will be equipping dual disc, which is the Keyblade I just got. We won't be using it for very long. And then I want to see, okay, I do not have Overcast. So this has been a really bad run when it comes to Overcast. So now I'm glad I have the 220 estimate so far. So we use dual disc in this fight just because there are some enemies that can lock your commands, and you need some physical damage just in case that happens. So I'm gonna... So once the next wave of enemies spawn right there, we're gonna use Comet. And then that did not end the fight. What? Normally that ends the fight, but... Darn. Okay, that was supposed to end the fight, but I guess the unicorn did not spawn in, which kind of sucks. But oh well. Couldn't really show. We'll have a swag Comet fight later. It's all good. So now we switch back to Guardian Bell, just cause the magic. And remember the save point we touched at the very beginning of the game on Sora before all the tutorials? This is where it comes into play. We are gonna save warp to that so we can go to the right away, and it skips a couple of rooms. Whoops! If I don't hit the light posts. So this boss that we're going into, this is a boss rush per se. It is 3 bosses in a row in a very small room, so therefore this fight is super annoying. We go back and fight Hoka Monkey, Wargoyle, and actually Riku's Lobster. So fun fact, when Hoka Monkey jumps like that, he can sometimes get stuck in the light posts, and sometimes you can get free hits. But this is definitely a very brutal fight. At least they give you time to heal up in between bosses. You'll see that bird later. So this is Wargoyle. This is probably the worst fight out of the 3. Just because of his punching and his stun locks and his meteors can take up the entire room. I'm gonna use a balloon rod and see if I can get away. Oh, I'm not gonna get away. Having overcast here is really important, as you could probably guess. Alright, that's fine. We didn't die to Wargoyle. Dying to Wargoyle is probably the most common point of death in this fight. So, I think we've gotten past the brutal part. And then we go to Riku's Lobster for some reason. Kind of ruins the trend of bosses. Sometimes the lobster can stun lock you, and sometimes he can do nothing. It's random. And that's the boss rush. So that went pretty clean. I'm happy about that. And now we have to drop to Riku and do his second Traverse Town visit in order to do the second Ring of Worlds, which is actually only 2 worlds and not 3. So when you drop, I don't think I explained these. When you drop, you get a certain amount of points, and you can put that towards bonuses. So the best thing to do is put it towards Magic Game, because obviously Magic is the most important thing of this run. So now Riku has a fight. I wouldn't really call it a boss. It's kind of weird. It's a group of the same enemies, but they give a lot of experience, so pay attention to how many level ups I get in this fight. Well, it'll be in a little moment. Not like right when the cutscene activates. You have to walk back the way you came after this cutscene. But yeah, keep track of the level ups. Because this also shows you how underleveled we are for this run. We end the run at around level like 15 on Riku and 13 on Sora. So this fight right here. Or I'll count with you. There's 1. There's 2. Oh, he's gonna pass me. I don't like this. There's 3. There's 4. Oh, whoops. And yeah. That is Riku's grind fight, as we call it. So many levels in one fight. So now all we have to do with Riku is go to the 3rd district, which is what we are going to now. Just some flow motion movement like usual. Third district is right in here. And then it's over. It kind of just ends abruptly. Get our Keyblade for completing Traverse Town. We will not be back there at all. And now we are able to progress into the second Ring of Worlds, or the second half of the game, depending on what you want to call it. So we have the choice of either the Country of the Musketeers world or the Fantasia world. And Riku, we do a bit differently than what most casual people would do. They would see the low battle level and go there first. But we actually do the Fantasia world first, because there are no forced fights other than the boss, and the boss has nothing to do, like, your level has no impact on the boss, or on how fast you can beat the boss. The boss is, you could be level 1 critical mode and do the same amount of damage, because the damage is scripted. So, we go, and the Keyblade you get here is way better than what you would get in the Musketeers world. So we are doing this first. And we also get a few chests that help us in the second world as well. So this is an enemy dive, as you can see here from the top right. 30 enemies. Usually the game is pretty generous about giving you power-ups so you can kill as many enemies as soon as possible. Like, usually at the end of dives, they give you a group of, you know, a lot of bats like you saw there. So this is I could go quiet here. This is the calmest world in the game because, oh whoops, what am I doing? You cannot hear the characters in this world because all it is just the Fantasia score over, you know, like there's like it's both the roaming music and the battle music. So Riku's world is based off the Nutcracker suite, and you go through, you know, bunch of rooms kind of correlating to it. So the plot of the game, or of this world I should say, you have to get these sound ideas, which are these clefs you see here, and you have to do that mini game or that reality shift that I did there in order to, I guess, unlock them. In this chest we're getting Zero Gravisa that we use a decent amount later, especially in the Musketeers world. And you're probably wondering, you saw the first time I did this, and why do you miss the last one? It's actually faster to miss the last input because of the amount of fireworks they do. You only need a certain amount of fireworks to consider a pass on the reality shifts, so you don't have to do the full thing technically, which I find kind of interesting. And on beginner, all the buttons are the same for the minigame, like no matter what. So we're getting an elixir there that we use in Sora's portion. Ooh, that could have been bad. Most of the times Riku wants to go off that branch smoother than what he did there. So this is kind of this is the closest thing we have to a sequence break. Usually they want you to go to the left and take that flow motion track, but you can just flow-mo right over it. It's not necessarily a glitch. Kingdom Hearts games are usually pretty good about glitches, with one major exception. Cough cough, Kingdom Hearts 2. But I won't go into that in a Dream Gap Distance run. So this is the last you know, thing before the boss. We're going into it right now. It's Chernobog, but what they did differently with this fight is it's in the form of a dive boss. So like what you've seen from bosses like Brawlamari, it's you have the dive layout. So Chernobog can do, so he has 3 phases. The first phase, he always starts with fire pillars that are random in location, and then he goes to fireballs. The fireballs are easy to avoid, you just go in a circle, and that's phase 1. Each attack does 1 bar of health, no matter what difficulty you're on or what level you're at. So second phase, he brings out his spirits. They're black, and he summons some later that are white. Like, sorry, no racist intentions there. I'm just saying the facts. So he summons his spirits, and then he goes to fireballs, which, like I said, are easy to avoid, and then he goes to fire pillars. But now, okay, so second phase is done. Third phase is the hardest phase and longest, so he pushes you all the way back. And here's where he sends out his white spirits that are way more, I guess, attached and more difficult to avoid. I'm gonna play a bit safe. So he does everything at once. He has the spirits, he has the fire pillars, he has the fireballs all at once. And you have to avoid pretty much all of them. I played it safe there. If the spirits grab onto you, they pretty much have a drain status on your HP. Ooh, okay, that was not what I wanted. But that was a pretty good fight. I didn't get hit at all, which is always great. But I did have to slow down a bit just for safety, but better than getting hit. Third phase is always pretty rough. So now we get Counterpoint, which is really good magic keyblade. And now we're going into the Musketeer world with Riku, which is one where we can get Overcast. Nope. Okay then. This game has been awful at Overcast. So now we did Sora's Brelamari in the grid, and now we do it with Riku here. But there is... You have to kill the same 2 orbs we did with Sora, but he gains an extra 4 more on his arms, I would say. But he gets to those 4 orbs pretty quickly. So, first phases go by pretty quickly. Beginning part is like usual. So here's where his 4 extra orbs, I guess, spawn. And so he gains, not really new attacks, but he just does more of them. So he has the lasers, he has the sword slashes still. I did get hit, okay. So in this fight, you have to, like, his desperation move is this huge, like, storm attack, I guess you can say, and you have to hide behind the rocks, otherwise you get hit. I'm definitely not getting the 2 cycle. So it's very rare and difficult, but you can get a 2 cycle on this fight for killing all the orbs. It depends on kind of the order Riku wants to kill the orbs, because the way he... Like, you saw how he went from, like, the top left to the top right, kind of, like, on his own? Yeah, I did not control that. Sometimes the game wants to... Oh, I almost got hit there. That would have been really bad. Yeah, this will be a 3 cycle, which is fine. So this is kind of the final part of the fight right here. As long as I don't get hit by this attack, otherwise he folds up and I can't attack him at all. So I'm gonna go kind of safe. Alright. This is also the longest dive in the game, at about 3 minutes. So we have a pretty large menu coming up. I'll probably have to talk my way through it. Because we have to deal with both Sora and Riku's decks. So for both, we have to put on Zero Gravisa, and then I have to put on the 2 Balloon Res here, as well as High Jump. I have to go Sora, put on Zero Gravisa, but I have to put on the Elixir over Cure, and then put on High Jump. Go back to Riku's deck, put on Counterpoints. You can see how stronger it is, both strength and magic-wise. So I'm going to get this chest for a Dream Candy, and these become pretty important later. And now I have to grind a little bit out in the front just for levels later. The higher level I am, the better. Oh my god, kill him, please. Thank you. You want to be a certain level after you beat the boss here. So, kind of the whole thing with Riku's World is you have to kill the 3 Beagle Boys individually before you do the actual boss of the world. So, a couple cutscenes and stuff before we get to the Beagle Boys fight. So like you saw in Sora's City in Notre Dame, you have the purple goo coming back, which increases your drop. So I have to do that Flummo thing to spawn this first Beagle Boy. And I'm going to try and use Zero Gravisa to pull him in. But the Beagle Boys can be very stingy when it comes to, you know, whether they want to be in the gravity or not. And they're also pretty aggressive in terms of their attacks. As you can see there. They are capable of eating a lot of your commands. And sometimes the... oh, I got Spirit Roar. That's actually kind of funny. This game is always funny when it gives you Spirit Roars when you don't need them. That's the magic boost I talked about way earlier in the run. But the spirits need to be at a certain level to get Spirit Roar, and that's kind of a level they just got. So this is the second Beagle Boy. Same method, kind of use Zero Gravisa, hopefully like trap him in a corner, potentially. God. Yeah, they are being super aggressive today. But what my spirits can do is heal me randomly, which is pretty insane. So this is the last Beagle Boy. Right when I beat him, you'll go straight to the boss. Level 15, that's actually really good. So you can either end this fight at 14 or 15. And 15 is kind of like over-leveling it, but you also get a magic. That's actually good. So this is Holy Moly. This is a pretty annoying boss. He can spawn anywhere in the room, and you can see from the minimap he spawned in the top left. You do not want him to spawn on a ceiling, because it's just that worse. So you saw how much damage I did to him there. So this is kind of his desperation move phase, is when he spawns his hands. And so you don't have to kill all the hands to advance the fight. You can just wait, and then they'll go away by themselves. You saw I went into the middle and got a Dream Candy chest. All of these are going to be used in Sora's Musketeer world. So we'll just wait this out, and then we'll just find Holy Moly once he respawns and do a specific flow motion movement on him. He spawned right here. That's not a bad. So you if you flow mo his nose, he becomes stunned, and so that's the fight. You see, that's the effect of Counterpoint, which is the best Keyblade in the game. If we didn't get the A ranks we needed, which we've been perfect on so far, which is great. So Riku's 2 worlds in this set are done. Now we just have to drop to Sora and do his 2. But we do the Musketeer world for Sora first. So we are dropping the Sora. Do our little, like a shop, you could call it. And I need to put on Knockout Punch, which is the Keyblade we got from Traverse Town, before we hop into the world. And I'm going to check for Overcast, see if it's on slot 3. I have it on now, actually. And now, ooh, okay, this is great. This is best case scenario for Sora right now. I have Overcast for both worlds in this set, which are 2 of the most important worlds to have it. So this dive is purely point based. Sometimes the little comic messages on the side can be annoying and you might accidentally hit them. So the reason why I put on Knockout Punch before even diving is that when you get into the world, you're immediately thrown into a forced fight. So you have no time to menu or anything. So hopefully we continue our A rank trend on these dives, which I think we do. Alright, so we will be thrown into a force fight immediately, and we will be using Comet right away, and using our elixir that we put on. So that gets the first wave of enemies done. I do a specific promo there just to... And now I'm using Zero Visa, bring all the birds in, and that was actually a pretty good fight. It's especially better since I have Overcast, and it would actually make this next force fight way faster. So, the next thing we have to do is another force fight. Whoops. So we have to talk to Mickey. We have to protect Minnie from pretty much a T-Rex or a Dream Eater T-Rex. And it's, you know, simple. Yeah, pretty short, self-explanatory. So we're getting another Dream Candy chest very soon. Before the next force fight, there's another force fight. So instead of what Riku did when he fought all the Beagle Boys one at a time, Sora gets to fight them all at once, twice, one time really soon, or the first time will be really soon. So I get the chest. We use Comet on the bridge for experience purposes. I'm gonna zero grab there. So yeah, we do some farming here, some basic experience stuff. We want to be level 13 before the boss fight of the world. So this is a segment here. You just have to work your way up to the Beagle Boys fight. So all we have to do is Flomo up here. I'm gonna go to Zirga Visa so I have it ready for the fight. This fight can be pretty annoying since all the Beagle Boys are really aggressive, so they're not afraid to do a number on your commands in terms of how many commands they eat. Oh my god, they should be dead. I thought I had overcast. Oh, yep. Ooh, they're doing a number on my commands. And I don't have Cure on, which makes this fight even scarier. Yeah, that fight was pretty awful. At least I didn't die. Yeah, just for safety, I'm going to touch the save point. So now we have a little more grinding to do. We just have to kill some enemies on this little path. Zirga Visa. T-Rex. Oh wow, that happened. And we get one more Dream Candy chest. This is the last Dream Candy chest we get in the run. Whoops. I don't think I've said what Dream Candies do exactly. Why? It's not letting me get the chest. Dream Candies restore half of your spirit's link gauge, which is very useful for what we're trying to do in this world. We need to kill the T-Rex for some experience. And after this, we're going to do a pretty short menu to put on these Dream Candies. Oh, whoops, times. I think some runs you don't need all 4, but it just depends on how fast your spirit's linkage fills up. Also, this is a forced fight, by the way, and it will last exactly 1 second. And it's over. So, yeah, that's why Comet is pretty overpowered, and that's why we get most of the Dream Candies for that fight. So now a couple more, and we do a bigger menu here. Keep Zirga Visa on, but we want slow, which we haven't seen all run. We haven't seen since we bought it with Riku in the Hunchback of Notre Dame world. But whoever developed this game, they decided not to make the Beagle Boys and Pete immune to slow. So that's why we have it on for this world. We'll do a little bit of grinding. We have to grind to level 13, like I said. We reached level 12 at the end of the Beagle Boys fight, or no, at the end of the elephant fight that you just saw. So I need to kill the T-Rex and then comment everyone else. See if we hit 13 right away. Okay, that's good. We don't have to do any extra grinding. So that's the last we see of Pseudo Neku in the main party, because we're never using Comet again. And I'll just repeat myself for the chat. This is the PlayStation 4 version of the game that comes with the Kingdom Hearts 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue bundle of sorts. Whoops. Alright, so this is Beagle Boys again. Heart dose. Why is my damage so low? Okay, so I got Spirit Roars, which are really, really good. You'll see how much damage I do with them. Getting another one is really good. Are they dead though? Nah, they're close though. So in order to proceed with the fight, you have to use Reality Shift on every Beagle Boy, which is called Wonder Comic. You just have to flick your joysticks in the direction the screen, you know, tells you to, so now I have to... Sometimes it's pretty finicky. And now we move on to Pete's once we take care of this last boy. So Pete's also not resistant to slow for some reason. So, and hopefully if the magic weapons want to give me Spirit Roar, they will. Okay. So it looks like... Oh, well, hold on. Okay, so this is his desperation move. Depending on your spirit or luck and your, you know, how many balloons are able to hit Pete, you can skip this. It's not the most rare thing, but, you know, I guess marathon luck, what am I expecting? Costs definitely a few seconds. And he can kind of just do it whenever he wants. Oh, whoops. I did not mean to do that. But I think we should be okay. Yep. So this is the end of the fight. This is the end of Sora's Country of the Musketeers. Kind of like a swag finish of some sorts. Alright, we're getting into the final stretch of the run, per se. We finished the last, we're gonna finish the game before the final world. Which is Symphony of Sorcery, like you saw with Riku. He had the Chernobog boss, he had the Nutcracker Suite theme going on. Sora's is a little bit different. The plot is the same, of having to do the reality shifts to get these sound ideas. But the environment is different and the boss is different. And the dive is different, so there you go. This is just a point-based dive. It's not too challenging. I don't want that big one. Getting the big points are pretty important. This is probably the hardest part of the dive right here, is the dodging these music staffs. Just like where they rotate can be kind of off. You know. Oh. Alright, so we're gonna go into Symphony of Sorcery. We're gonna put on, we're gonna do a menu. We're gonna put on our new Keyblade we just got because it's another magic, upgrade. So, well, before that, we need to put on Zero Gravity Ga, and then Balloons, and then Keyblade, which is all for one. Strength deduction, but magic. Upgrade. So Riku's Symphony of Sorcery is based off the Nutcracker Suite. This is the Pastoral Symphony. And his boss is not a dive boss. It's kind of not really a spoiler, but same, you know, same emphasis on music and ooh. that was kind of risky right there. Movement in this world is pretty important, hence, you know, getting from sound idea to sound idea. Oh, I almost made a really bad mistake. Okay, I almost fell off the whole thing. Saved it. So there's really not much to say. It's similar to Riku's. And they gave me Spirit Roar when I don't need it. Yay. They were pretty good in the Pete fight, for the most part. Ooh, okay. So that's pretty much it for wandering around the world of bosses. Not too far from now. We just have to go to the last sound idea where we don't have to do a reality shift. So just activate the cutscene, and we just have to go back into the music realm to the boss, which is the Dream Eater that was responsible for summoning the 3 bosses in the boss rush that you saw in the Traverse Town boss rush. So this is Spellikin. We like to call him something else, but it's probably safe to not disclose that on stream for a marathon. But so the fight starts out on this slow motion segment. Spellikin can do one of two things. He can either throw boulders like he just did, or he can do this like bubble-esque spell, which is that. So all you have to do to get him out of this slow motion phase is to hit him once, but you can only do that with a slow motion attack. So I think I should be able to do this here. Dash in. Ooh, no, I missed. Okay, that's fine. Usually the game is pretty quick about catching up to him. And so the game also didn't make Spellikin resistant to Zero Graviga, which is why we put it on in the first place. So hopefully, you know, we can not still knock him, but Spellikin is notorious for teleporting whenever he wants to. I did not mean to do what I just did. So, ignore that. That's never happened before. I stunned him with it, though, so that's like a strat. I just discovered a new strat on the fly. That was a really good fight. So, Spellikin didn't... So, worst case scenario, he teleports on top of one of the... or the rocks that you have to flow-mo on top of yourself. And that, you know, costs time, and just him moving around is pretty bad. Alright, so all the main worlds are done. The final world is open. It's the world that never was, which is the final world in KH2, which you'll be seeing a bit later, actually. Spoilers. So, now we can enter with Sora, and this is the hardest dive in the game, so I might need some serious time here. This is Queen Buzzerfly, who you saw at the beginning of the game on Riku, but this time it's probably amped up by 10,000. Okay. They gave me a bad pattern. That is the pattern you do not want to start with. Alright, one cycle. That was a really good fight. One cycle in this fight is way harder than the first fight. So that means I have A-ranked all the dives on Sora, so I will get the Dive Wing Keyblade on Sora, which will give me a magic boost for the end of the game. Which is great. So after we skip like 10,000 cutscenes, we're gonna be forced to drop to Riku, just for plot reasons. As you see here. So now we get to do Riku's World That Never Was dive, which unlike Sora's, Riku's is actually really easy. It's just a point collecting one, and there are 0 enemies. And so this is where RNG in this run matters the most. So that overcast weather I have been mentioning throughout the run, this is where it's most important. So getting it would be great. If I don't, then it will be kind of sketchy in terms of how difficult the rest of the run is going to be. But we'll see once we get to a certain point in Riku's World That Never Was. Ooh, I might have needed that small batch of points, but I'll see what I can do. I think I should I think A ranking this is pretty solid. Ooh, I'm almost off. Hopefully I didn't B rank it. I don't think I did. Okay, we're fine. Alright, we got Dive Wing on both, which is really good. It's more important on Riku, but it's still really important. So now Riku, we're in the world that never was, obviously Final World, like I said. So the gimmick for both characters pretty much is to destroy like certain, I guess, objects, like balls for Riku and walls with Sora for the most part. With this reality shift, they're pretty much the same thing on both characters. They're just called something differently. So now I have to switch the magical weapon back onto Riku because I didn't do that before. Just some flow movement here. There are a few patterns that the Mirage split can give you. They're pretty much random. I'd have to say some are easier than others or some are faster than others. I should more accurately say. But so we're gonna be getting this chest, not now, but after we do this reality shift. Oh, I thought I missed a couple there. Alright, happy I got those. So this chest has double flight in it, which is definitely a useful ability. I mean, it's not required to beat the game, but I always get it in my runs. And also this chest has another Curaga that we will equip right now for both characters. And double fight for Riku. Riku's the only one that can use double fight. Also, I have to change the Keyblade on Riku, and then I have to check for Overcast. Okay, this is good. This is good. This is good. Sorry, so what I'm doing now, I have Overcast in slot 2 and slot 3. So as a result, I am doing Sora's section first. I will do so once you mandatory drop with Sora, you can you go to Riku and then you can go back to Sora at pretty much any time. So just because of Overcast circumstances, I am doing Sora's section first. So now you can see how kind of similar they are. Sora's section is a bit shorter than Riku's, so nothing much to say. We'll be cutting some buildings, you know, doing some fun stuff. Also, this is the Shion cutscene, and if you've played this game casually, shouts to that cutscene. So you'll see how similar the reality shifts are right when I do it. This one's called Nightmare's End, and they do literally the same thing, but they just look differently. And I almost screwed up that, which would have been kind of sad. Okay, getting all of them in one is that was pretty fast. Alright, so the boss is in this room right here. We just have to make our way down to him. For safety, I'm just going to touch the save point. So, this is Xemnas, obviously, final boss of KH2. Spoiler alert, because we haven't seen that yet. But, so, we call him the Spirit Killer, or at least I do, because it seems like out of nowhere he can just, like, two-shot your spirits, because we're still such low of a level with his buildings. And I think they should be okay. At least the one is. So this, Xemnas can definitely be aggressive, but he can also teleport a lot. And teleporting a lot is not good. And we have Overcast, so we definitely, we appreciate the magic boost we get from that. So once you get down to a certain HP barrier, he goes into his DM. I'm gonna cure right now. Oh, that's not good. That is not good. I need to revive him real quick. Ooh, okay. And now I need to heal him. Okay, we're fine. That was kind of scary. So that's the Spirit Killer mentality right there. You can just demolish them with buildings. So we don't, so there's the reality shift there. We don't do it because it just makes Xemnas more overpowered. He becomes more aggressive. And we don't want that, so we just skip doing the reality shifts. And just because of Overcast, that fight is pretty fast. So now Sora will be forced to drop because of plot. And now we have to finish Riku's section of... We get to finish the whole game with Riku. We're not going back to Sora. Alright, so the difference between Riku's and Sora's World That Never Was is that Riku has a extra long boss rush of, well, in this case it's going to be like 4 boss. Well, actually it's going to be like, what, 5 bosses considering the luck we got. So this first boss is the Anti-Black Coat Nightmare, who is right up here. He is super annoying. All these bosses are super annoying in their own way. This is Anti-Black Coat, arguably the most annoying out of them all. We'll hopefully not see why. Obviously, he has all of these attacks from the grounds that can definitely stun you or break you out of commands. I did get a Spirit Roar, so hopefully this fight ends fast as a result. That was a really fast fight. I got a ton of Spirit Roars. Okay, so I'll explain something. He has an attack where he can pretty much grab you from the ground and reduce you down to 1 HP, and whatever he does after that is completely random. He can kill you without giving you a chance to heal. So I'm glad I did not. So now this is Ansem 1, or Ansem Seeker of Darkness 1. The fight starts in the air. He can do one of two things. He can either do the dash like he did there, or he can fire his cheater discs, as we call them. We have to knock him out of the air with the reality shift in order to, get to the grounds, fight on the grounds. And other than that, this fight's kind of self-explanatory. This is probably the easiest out of all the fights in the boss rush. So yeah, really quick. Alright. Ansem has a second form that we will fight now, and it is arguably the worst boss in this boss rush, because it has the most health, and it's just to do quick, especially without Overcast. But since we do, hopefully we get a better experience. That did a lot of damage. I do not like that. I'm gonna heal. That heal was definitely a safety heal. I did not need to do that really, but alright, we got the reality shift. When you do enough damage to him super quickly, you get the reality shift, which will stun him for a short period of time. And hopefully you are able to kill him by then. But right when he gets up, he goes to his DM, which is this. And we should be okay. One more hit, and we should be good. Alright, that was a really good boss rush. All of these bosses are super annoying, especially without Overcast. Alright, we have 2 bosses left in the run. We'll have, I can just go to the boss now, because I can't drop. Alright, so most people, in terms of, you know, story, this is the final boss, but it really isn't. But this is young Xehanort coming up, because plot and time travel. So, I mean, I don't really know how to describe this fight. So this fight has 2 phases. The opening to phase 1 is pretty random, and that is definitely the worst start you could have. He can definitely stun lock you, he can do a lot of damage, he can teleport a lot. Alright, so that's phase 1. I'm gonna heal for safety, and this is phase 2. We have to reality shift the clock. And we have to do this right, otherwise. So I'm gonna play a little bit safe, so I don't whiff one of them. So this is the second phase. We have to destroy the clock. But in this phase, young Xehanort is much more aggressive. He brings out clones. And the clones do a lot of damage. Obviously, the Spirit Roars are great. And the clock should actually be dead right now. Alright. So we have one more boss. Actually, we have a dive and a boss. So, because of plot, we have to save Sora as Riku and dive into his heart. So the final dive of the game is this right here, where we have to collect, is it 20 Soras? I think it's 20. 30, my bad. I've played this game a bit, and I don't remember. So, it's kind of self-explanatory. No points, no nothing. There's no A ranks, B ranks, etc. You just have to tag 30 before the end of this, like, I don't know, flashback type thing. Otherwise, you have to restart from the very beginning. There are these anti-swords here to be a pain in the booty, so just avoid them at all costs. And if I guess you can hit them, just hit them. Alright, so this is the final boss. This is Armored Ventus Nightmare, because once again, plot. This fight is very annoying as well, because this fight is very random. So, he can go into these white rooms, and in these white rooms, he is very aggressive. Ooh. In this he can do one of two white rooms. He can either do what he did here and become, you know, like you're able to attack him. But there's also a white room where you are not able to attack him. Also, Spirit Wars in this fight would be great. I got 2 good white rooms in a row, which is pretty uncommon. I'm gonna see if I can play safe. Okay. It's always better to play safe, especially in the white rooms. And you can see how the commands can be eaten. Alright, time should be coming up very soon. So, because swag, there's this. Time will end, I'll just say when. So, on English, there's like an 8-second like wait here. Maybe not 8, maybe it's more. And you have to do this little like mini game. And time is, I'll just say, time is now. I'll skip a few, and I'll talk at the end. 204.25. That's actually a really good run. My PB is 202 something. I'll just do some quick shouts to the Cage community. I know you saw Kingdom Hearts Final Mix by Cage Freak earlier, and you'll be seeing Zoim do Cage 2FM, and then you'll see Pess do Terra Crit level 1 in BBS. So I'll just shout out the whole Cage community. We're we're always growing. We have a Discord for anyone that wants to join. DDD has been slowly rising, I guess. I mean, obviously you saw there is RNG. But it's definitely like a fun race game. It's fun, comment on RNG in the run. Shout outs to my man Donner, who you've probably seen in the chat where he's probably like gone. But him and I have been, getting close through DDD racing and doing higher difficulties. We've been doing Proud and Crit and Standard. We've gotten away from beginner. Shoutouts to my man Zantetsuken, who also has raced me a couple times in this game. Shoutouts to Dessa, actually. He's been, he went from Cage 1 to Cage 2 to, he's been doing DDD recently. Shoutouts to the whole DDD sector of the community. Everyone's great. That's about it. I mean, again, if you want to pick up this game, go ahead. I mean, this game is still pretty quiet in comparison to your KH1 and KH2s of the bunch. But, yeah, thanks to ARPG Marathon for having me. DDD might not be the most marathon safe game, but I'm proud to show it off, and a 204 is actually a really good time for a marathon, so I'm happy that at least the end of the run went pretty well. Beginning could have been better, but thanks to also chat and anyone viewing during the graveyard shift. You the real MVP. So I guess I'll cut stream. I'm not sure who's after me. I'll actually look real quick. Who is after? Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 by TurboDog. Alrighty. So I guess I'll leave it to him, and thanks again.